Good morning. This is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church in Detroit. We're continuing our series of daily morning meditations where we generally look at one or another of the lessons that are assigned for morning or evening prayer, what is known as the daily office lectionary. And today is Maundy Thursday, and in fact, we have now entered into what is known as the Sacrum Triduum, or the three holy days. These days, Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday, are the last days of our Lenten observance, and is really kind of the final oomph of the whole time that we have spent these 40 days, looking at our sin, and obviously in Good Friday, looking at the remedy for our sin being the cross of Jesus Christ. And so as we've been working our way through the Gesimas and then Lent, and then now Passiontide, here we are at the cusp of the good news of the resurrection. But first, we have a lot to go through before that. Primarily today, of course, being Maundy Thursday, the tradition of the church was that Masses could only be said before noon. Masses were not said in the evening. However, Maundy Thursday and the Great Vigil of Easter and Christmas Eve were the exceptions to that. So the tradition has always been that there is not a daytime Mass on Maundy Thursday, whereas all other Masses had to be in the morning, but instead there is one Mass that is done at night. And that'll be true here at St. John's. The Mass will be tonight at 7 p.m., and the Mass has three particular emphases. One is, it is the commemoration of the Last Supper. And we know at the commemoration of the Last Supper that Jesus instituted the sacrament of his own body and blood. So that's vitally important for us to remember, that it is this assurance, this promise of grace when Jesus says that we must eat his flesh and drink his blood in chapter 6 of John's Gospel. Here's the way that that is provided for. In the other Gospels, we hear about Jesus taking the bread and breaking it and saying, "This is my body," and then the cup after the meal, "This is the blood of the New Testament that he is establishing." So it is vitally important that we celebrate. And in fact, we wear white vestments tonight. Even though it is deeply penitential in Lent at this point of time, it is an amazing and wonderful celebration because of the institution of the sacrament. Secondly, it's also a thanksgiving for the institution of the priesthood, the vehicle by which the church is able to institute and have the Holy Communion service every single day. That is possible is because there are priests in the church, those men who've been set aside for this particular ministry and for this grace, this ontological change that has happened to them at their ordination. But there's also a third aspect which we're not going to be able to do today, and that is what is known as the mandatum. The mandatum comes from the anglicized word for commandment, the mandate, and that is that Jesus says, "This new commandment I give you is to love one another as I have loved you." And so it is that one of the ways that that happens is that Jesus shows them this love by washing their feet. And usually on Maundy Thursday, the priest will wash the feet of members of the congregation. Because of COVID-19 precautions, we've been advised against doing such a thing, so we will not have feet washing tonight at the service, but we will have a remembrance and a thanksgiving for that ministry as well. But I did want to take a quick look at one of the lessons that are assigned for evening prayer. We're up there, John chapter 17, and it's the long prayer that Jesus is making at the Last Supper. And we get going, starting down at verse 16, we hear this: "They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world." He's speaking of the disciples, of course. "Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth. As thou hast sent me into the world, even so have I also sent them into the world. And for their sake I sanctify myself, that they also might be sanctified through the truth. Neither pray I for these alone, but for them also which shall believe on me through their word, that they all may be one, as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. And the glory which thou gavest me, I have given them, that they may be one, even as we are one." And this is so vitally important for us to remember, that a part of the reason for the ministry of the church is the unity of all Christian believers. We're terribly fractured by sin, right? The church is divided. There's all sorts of strange doctrines that have entered in and caused people to have themselves divided. And so it is that Jesus prays this great high priestly prayer that he is praying, that in fact we may all be one. And why should we be one? Well, not only is it good for us, because we all follow one Lord, right? We all have one faith, one baptism, assuming we haven't adopted strange doctrines. But most importantly, it's because it is the way that we witness to the world about the truth in Jesus Christ, if we can do that with unity. So that could be our prayer, this Sacrum Triduum, these 3 sacred days, that we may be made holy and that we may learn to love one another as Jesus Christ has loved us. And just as he is in the Father and the Father is in him, and that they are one, may God grant us the grace to work together in unity for the kingdom of God. I hope you have a fantastic Thursday, and God willing, we'll see you tonight in church.